Yeah, and our featured speaker, Dr. Gregory Vidal.
Yes. Dr. Vidal? Yes.
Okay, just giving Mrs. Alexander a minute. Okay, good morning again, and let me just welcome everyone to this gathering. To begin, I'm going to invite Father Reggie, a member of the deputy chair, deputy president of the association, to offer a word of prayer. Shall we please stand?
Good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Father Reggie.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Almighty God, as we come together for this annual meeting, we are mindful of the serious business at hand, the weight of the decisions lying before us. Our hope is anchored in you, Lord, and so we ask you in Jesus Christ for your guidance. Father in heaven, we lift those battling cancer to you in our prayers. We ask that you visit them on their sick beds and bring them healing through their treatment. We pause for a brief moment as we remember those who have gone before us. They have left brief influence on our lives, and we can learn from their example and legacy. Restore hope to as many that might be losing hope. Please strengthen them and encourage their families and friends through difficult times. Bless the doctors, the nurses, and the caregivers who stand as beacons of hope in healing in our communities, tirelessly dedicating themselves to the well-being of others. We thank you for the mammoth task that is undertaken by the board of directors and the many volunteers as you continue to bless their efforts with success and prosperity. May their work bring glory to your name and benefit those around us. May our discussions reflect not only our responsibilities, but also recognize your many blessings that bring hope to our endeavors. We praise you and humbly seek your wisdom as our compass. Help us to grow stronger together in this gathering and beyond. Fulfill your will as we intended and as you also intended for us, Almighty God. And so, in Jesus' name we pray. forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Reggie, for imploring God's guidance on our deliberations here this morning. Let me recognize the Honorable Minister for Health, Wellness, and Social Services, Honorable Kasani Laville. We also want to recognize Dr. Gregory Vidal, our featured speaker, a son of the soil, and we are very happy to have him with us here this morning. The president of the Dominica Cancer Association and other members of the executive of the Cancer Association, other supporters of and friends of the DCS who were present. We also recognize members of the media who were here, and we want to thank them for the tremendous job that they're doing in order to bring out the message to the Dominican public. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm David Slater, myself a cancer survivor, and I am the coordinator of the men's support group of the Dominica Cancer Society. So it's indeed a pleasure to see so many of you here this morning, and we hope that as we progress, we'll be joined by many others. At this point, I wish to call to the microphone our hardworking president, Mrs. Yvonne Alexander. I don't remember the new name, but we all know her as Yvonne Alexander, so I'll just use that name and she'll tell us the new name. So she is so passionate about this thing that whenever she speaks, you just have to listen. At this point, I invite Yvonne to welcome you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leta, our chairperson this morning. Honorable Kasani Laville, Minister of Health, Wellness, and Social Services, welcome. Dr. Gregory Vidal, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be our guest speaker here this morning. Welcome. Other specially invited guests, I want to recognize Mr. Jolly, who is here on a special mission that you'll hear about. Members of the board of directors who are here present, and some of them are in the Zoom meeting room due to ill health or emergency overseas travel. So some others are in the Zoom meeting room. Members, supporters of the Dominica Cancer Society, members of the media, thank you so much for being here in your numbers. Apart from Kyrie, MO, we have GIS, we have DBS. Did I miss out anyone? Thank you so much to all the media houses that are here to provide this kind of coverage for us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual general meeting of the Dominica Cancer Society. Thank you for making the effort to be here today. I recognize that it's Saturday, it's month end. There are a lot of ladies in here. You all know how it is. But you determined that you were going to give us this time, so we're extremely grateful. We know that there are some others who will join us. They are running a bit late. I have apologies for absence of a few who have the flu. You know that we have this flu virus a little bit. It's taking its toll on the general population. So some of our members are indisposed and would prefer to join via the Zoom meeting room. So we do have a Zoom meeting room. Welcome to those of you on Zoom as well. I hope they can hear this time because last time there was a little bit of audio challenges with those on Zoom. You know, I am pleased that you all determined that this was a priority. The Dominica Cancer Society continued to experience growth and development in 2024. Apart from the observance of the usual Cancer Awareness Months, we were able to host our first global Relay for Life in the month of June, Cancer Survivors Month. Yes, the weather had an impact on, the turnout, but nonetheless, we did it, and we are really very pleased that so many were able to come out, the entertainers, Pan in Harmony, the Bar Association, choir, Michael Henderson. We are just really grateful that we gave this a try, and we intend, hopefully, well, this is an election year, the new board continues this effort. I think of significance was the fact that we took the opportunity to honor the memory of Mr. Frankie Crazy Bellot. He was one of our main benefactors. We lost him just like a few months before that particular activity, and we just had to do something to honor his memory. So I'm glad we were able to do that. We were also able to move forward with, apart from the formation of the men's arm, we had the men's arm actually taking the lead and having a really very successful prostate cancer awareness month, much more than we could have done if we were just kind of trying to implement from the level of the board of directors. So I really want to thank Davis, Father Reggie, who is on it, Don Corrett, all the doctors who came on board, Dr. Jacob, Dr. Pascal, Dr. Johnson, they all came on board. We extended, we decentralized the observance. So we had, either town hall meetings or block meetings in different districts. We went to Granby, we went to Margot, we went to St. Joseph, and we were able to also have free screening. Important. So very grateful to Dr. Ken Jacob, who should have been here, he's not here this morning, for his efforts, and Dr. Johnson and all the others, the government medical doctors who provided free screening and encouraged our men to get screened. We thank all of you, Davis, Don, all the doctors. It culminated with a panel discussion right here at the UWI auditorium. So we are really very pleased. I think more importantly, our hope is that the men act on the information that they received and took the opportunity to get screened, because we continue to be concerned about the late diagnosis of prostate cancer in Dominica, and even more so, the mortality. We are too small for us to have those type of numbers of young people succumbing to cancer, young men in their productive age group. There was a large turnout of members at the annual walk, and for that we were also really very pleased, simply because we have normally done this walk on a Saturday, and we tried it on a Sunday. We tried it on a Sunday because there are some of our members who are 7-day Sabbath observers, and we felt, they kept complaining that they really don't get an opportunity to do the walk because we've always had it on a Saturday. And so we tried it on a Sunday, and we were really very pleased with the turnout, because we know the situation in Dominica with our transportation system. Some places do not have really reliable bus service on a Sunday, but we showed out. We turned out. People carpooled. Some of the bus drivers came out, and we showed up. There are some people who think we should revert back to the Saturday, and no problem. We tried the Sunday, and I think we need to give the Sunday a try from time to time. But I appreciate the fact that on a Saturday, we get a lot more traction in relation to the turnout, the people who are on the route that we can stop to ask for donations and all of that. So, but these were among some of the highlights of the year. Thanks to the generosity of our many benefactors, we were able to assist over 46 individuals in the sum of over $120,000. It's not a lot when you consider cancer treatment. It's not a lot, but it meant a lot to those who got it, those who had to pay thousands of dollars for chemo, and we were able to pay that for them. Those who were to pay thousands of dollars for surgery or diagnostics, and we were able to assist them in meeting that cost. It meant a lot to them. And so we could not have done that without the generosity of our small but willing private sector. Although sometimes I think they can do a little more. I think some of them can do a little more. Those who have not come on board, we encourage you to come on board. But we are really very grateful to those of you who have remained consistent, those of you who support everything that we do, and every year you are on board. There are also individuals who likewise make, monetary contributions. We really appreciate you all. The mission of the Dominica Cancer Society is to empower individuals, families, and communities through education, advocacy, and mobilization of resources to promote, first of all, prevention, early detection, effective diagnosis, and treatment. All we're aiming for is improved quality of life of individuals affected by cancer. Our goal, as articulated in our strategic plan 2024-2029, is to contribute towards increased awareness of cancer, leading to prevention, early detection, and intervention. In this regard, the DCS program focuses on: we mobilize financial resources to assist those in need to meet the cost of treatment; we educate and advocate about cancer prevention and care; we provide psychosocial support for individuals affected by cancer. Notwithstanding our efforts, though, and based on anecdotal data just from our office, because we quite frequently have people coming in to either request some sort of support, financial or otherwise, we continue to see what appears to be an increase in cancer and in individuals succumbing. So there have been individuals who have come to us like around 6 months ago, seeking some sort of assistance, financial or psychosocial. And then 6 months later, they've lost the battle. But even when they came to us, they're already stage 3 and stage 4. Many stage 4, young people, 20s, 30s, 40s, we are concerned. We are really very concerned. We should not be losing 20-year-olds to breast cancer, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. You hear it, sometimes you see some of the death announcements on Emonews. We are really very concerned about that. We have the view that much more is required to be done at the national level, Minister, to reverse this trend. We had an opportunity to review the World Health Organization Cancer Report 2020. And the reason that I went back to this report is because both speakers at last year's AGM, Dr. Cassandra Williams and Dr. Calendar, our oncologist, made reference to that report. The conclusion of that report has some recommendations that can be probably used as a template for how we may begin to consider what we can do to reduce the cancer burden on the country. It speaks about, the report confirms that the cancer burden is high and increasing, with a projected 80% increase in low and middle income countries. That is of concern. That progress is inequitable and insufficient in low and middle income countries. We're not making enough progress towards in terms of inaccessible care and financial hardship. And it concludes that investing wisely will save lives. We really know that, across the globe, we're experiencing financial constraints. But I think we really need to consider, can we do a little more? In our case, we are a low-income country. We are seeing the increased mortality rates. The report highlights the need for governments to activate political will, to set priorities and invest wisely, to provide care for all. I'm not saying our government isn't doing that. I'm just saying there is still much more to be done. The report focuses on what it refers to as key actions. And some of the key actions that are of significance and Dominica Cancer Society would like to see probably a little more work on is, for instance, to strengthen governance, make a plan. If we have a national cancer plan, I am not aware of it, and I would apologize profusely for saying we don't. So I don't even want to say we don't have one. But we need a plan. It says that national cancer plans and strong governance are the basis of an effective response and can improve outcomes. About the investment in early diagnosis. Again, I want to applaud the ministry. We very recently, just last year, I was invited to come to the hospital where there was something like almost, it's probably not a luncheon, but for want of a better word, our mammogram machine, because we know that in the case of breast cancer, it's expensive to have the mammograms at the, in the private sector. So I'm really very pleased that we have that level of diagnostics. The mammogram is finally at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. We say hooray, we applaud, round of applause. Yeah. But we know too that there is so much more because there are new tests that Dr. Calendar is now recommending, and most of them can't be done effectively locally. So we need some more diagnostics. We need to build the capacity of our own healthcare people so that we have a little more expertise in who can do what. And probably it means a regional kind of collaboration, if that's what it takes. We're all small islands. It costs to have the equipment and the expertise. But I said, when you have to consider what technology is doing, I'm saying, to me, I think there needs to be discussions about, okay, how do we collaborate? What is country X doing? What is country Y doing? And how can we do that? There are other small islands. Probably I shouldn't compare. For instance, we hosted a group from Martinique recently, Martinique cancer survivors, and we were jealous because they were saying there was this group for about €30 annually. You can get all your cancer treatment paid, but that is in Martinique. We can't compare ourselves to Martinique. That's in Martinique. But I thought, wow, boy, what would it take to, to piggyback on something like this? We're neighbors. Probably there can be a discussion at the national level. How is this? How can this happen? How is this possible in Martinique? Can we find out what exactly are they doing? Where is this money coming from? How are they able to do this? I would really like to see us do things like that. Of course, the strengthening of information systems is of concern to us. We find we kind of, I almost want to say we get sometimes the run around trying to get data. We need the data so that it informs, some of the work that we want to do. And sometimes the data is not very readily available. We sometimes have to wait until somebody delivers a speech, and then we get a little glimpse here and there of, what might be considered the real picture. But I think the minister will agree with me that we are partners in this. And one of the other things the plan mentions is partner with communities and civil society, an empowered, enabled civil society. I think the Dominica Cancer Society is empowered. I think we are able, we're trying our best. And our networks, all our support groups all over the place, I think can assist with, the discussion of, policies, programs, and so on. Okay, so we do need some more action at the national level. But the Dominica Cancer Society, we will continue to do all that is humanly possible to be a beacon of hope, help, and support for individuals affected by cancer in keeping with our vision. We reiterate the call for individuals to take personal responsibility for their health. Start by making things like annual medical checks and screening a regular part of your lives. Don't wait until there is a symptom to schedule a medical appointment. Our tagline is early detection does save lives. Okay, it's our best protection. I said a lot to just welcome you here, but I felt I needed to put those things on record. And I just want to simply thank all of you for being here. Okay? Welcome again. And may God continue to bless all of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Yvonne, for certainly bringing your passion to this meeting here this morning. We thank you for that, and for presenting the report card of DCS for 2024. I think from what you've shared, the report card seemed impressive. You have reminded us that much is happening both at the level of government and at the level of the DCS, but there's still a lot of gaps. There's still gaps in prevention, treatment, and care for cancer patients in Dominica and generally for Dominican people. And you this morning reiterated the need for a strategic plan for cancer so as to address some of those gaps as we move forward. So we thank you very much for sharing with us on these areas this morning. Our next speaker is the Honorable Minister, Honorable Kasani Laville. He is the Minister for Health, Wellness, and Social Services. He is a great advocate, well, he has become in recent time, a great advocate on matters of health. And I must also remind you that he is also a member of the men's support group of the Dominica Cancer Society. Although he doesn't attend all our meetings, but he certainly sends, some good thoughts, ideas of things that we can do as as the men's support group of the DCS, and he also ensures that we get the level of collaboration that we require, both for the men's support group and for the Dominica Cancer Society from the Ministry of Health. We're indeed happy, Honorable Minister, to have you on board as a partner, and we would just like to thank you for all the support. But just before I call the Honorable Minister, I just want to tell Yvonne, he did not remind me of send me a memo of the dress code for the men at the head table. If you realize the men are in pink, I am in blue, so Yvonne forgot to send the memo. So blame Yvonne, not me. All right? So at this point, I call the Honorable Minister to address you.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Greetings and good morning in a special way to the President of the Dominica Cancer Society and to all the executive members and by extension, all the members. In a special way, I must highlight my former teacher, Aurelius Jolly. I'm very intrigued by your presence and interested in your story. So while I have a very busy day with 2 additional functions, I will stay to ensure that I hear everything you have to say. And to Father Reg, greetings to you. To all of you who have made this sacrifice on this blessed Saturday morning to be here, welcome to you. It's not easy to sacrifice your Saturday morning because in our culture, Saturday is important to do our chores. My children are in football this morning. I had to make arrangements, but this is very important to me also, and likewise to you. In a special way, greetings to the media. You also have a very important role in communication, in communicating this very important message. So we're honored by your presence. And thank you to all of you. And to those listening, viewing on various platforms, greetings. It's a pleasure to be here. And we're happy to have your attention. Many times when I have to speak, when I have the honor and privilege, I usually ask myself, what do I say? What do I do? Yes, I'm given a topic. I was asked to speak on United by Unique. United by Unique. The theme for this year's World Cancer Day, earlier in February. But notwithstanding, this morning, of course, a few things were put into perspective. A few discussion points were raised. And also while you prepare, there's always this inherent feeling of being spontaneous and being passionate and speaking from the heart. And I tend to aspire to be a student of being just that. So hence the reason these are my notes, okay, scribbled this morning. Not that I was not prepared on the theme, but I will speak to you from the heart. First of all, let me say congratulations to all of you who are here in this room today. It's a pleasure to see you because all of you, all of us, have either walked that harrowing dance or witnessed that harrowing dance of cancer. And thank you for your support, your solidarity. And to those of you who have received that second chance miracle, may God bless your lives. May God bless your presence. I'm happy that the president mentioned, and it's not for people to know, but it's really for you to understand that I too am a member of the Dominica Cancer Society. it is because I support the Dominica Cancer Society. Maybe I may not have had the pleasure, privilege, and honor to speak here had I been an ordinary member. I'm here because I am Minister for Health, Wellness, and Social Services. I'm humbled to be there in that regard. But the stories that I have, the person that I am, it has nothing to do with the title that I hold. I have witnessed that harrowing dance where people I love have survived and many have died. From teachers, my dear teacher in high school, to my great-grandmother when I was 9, to my aunts, my uncles, my friends, and just last year, my mother. And it's because of that which I have lived, that which I know, my dear constituents, as representative for the Mao constituency, that I see them struggling to find that healthcare equity, where for them, finance seems to sometimes be that barrier between their blessing, their second chance miracle. I have witnessed that. I have witnessed communities coming together for one of my very dear friends in the community of Campbell, having to treat cancer and coming together as a community to have barbecues, to raise funds. And for also me, in my capacity as representative, to do my best to match what they have raised to ensure that this person has a chance for that second chance miracle. So I'm not someone who has to be convinced. I've lived it. I live it every single day of my life. And that is why I take my job very seriously as Minister of Health, Wellness, and Social Services. The way I sleep, the way I wake up in the morning, it's dependent on the things that we do, even the things that I don't know about that happens in our healthcare sector. That's how serious healthcare is. But to also extend, I'm not here today to refute, to defend, to boast the gains, the tremendous gains that we have made, or even to refute anything that may be said, may have been said, or is being said. Because we all know this is not necessarily the best forum for discussion on planning. But I will use my time this morning, this blessed Saturday morning instead, to try to inspire anyone who's willing to listen, to understand how important this conversation is. Because healthcare is but a sphere, public health, with various pillars, where government and public health is but a central pillar. Communication is yet another central pillar. The message must get out. It must be disseminated. Health education. But we are the main pieces, the centerpiece of our own health. And that is a very important message. Because if we keep on saying that prevention is better than cure, the government cannot be seen, or you and I cannot be seen as the ones primarily responsible for personal care and people's personal health circumstances. While we have our role to educate and to inform, we must take ownership of our lives and of our choices. And that's why it's important that we must disseminate that information so we all understand the pillar that we are tethered to, or the role that we play in this interconnected sphere that we call public health. I had the pleasure and privilege to speak to someone very close to me who had cancer last year. And in this particular case, it is 1 in 100. That's the chance, the likelihood of getting this particular type of cancer. And surgery was performed successfully at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. I also had the courtesy to speak to the doctor, who said to me that seeing that it's 1 in 100, 1 in 100,000, and our population is 70,000, it's very unlikely, of course, that he would get to do another one like that. So for him, he was happy to have done it and done it successfully, recognizing that based on statistics, he would likely not have to do another one. I was able to have a one-on-one with this individual who had this rare case of cancer and who said to me, I asked, and I supported this person very much, and that's why I asked, tell me something that I don't know about your process, something that resonates deeply with you. She said to me the following. She said, 1, I wished I had lived my life differently in terms of the dietary choices that I have made. It's only now, after 70 years, that she's finally listening to the doctor's advice. And I've seen this person lose over 40 pounds healthily in 5 months. Healthily. After living a lifetime of being obese, now has that discipline and that depth of understanding to realize how dietary choices can affect your health and your life. She further continued, and she said to me, I am so grateful for the support system and the network that I had, because there are many days when I forgot I had cancer. And that is the role that we have to play. That is where humanity comes to the fore. That is where the Dominica Cancer Society is active every day to be that pillar of support, strength, solidarity, and advocacy in our lives. And in a special way, I want to thank each and every one of you and your membership, Madam President, for being that pillar of support in our healthcare system. I thank you sincerely. I have also spoken to another cancer survivor who had a different story. Someone much younger, different circumstance, who also knew that she herself had her own health challenges, well suspected but not confirmed, only to find out that the reason why she had late diagnosis was because of fear. Fear of the unknown. And if prevention is better than cure, if early detection is the key to saving lives, then we must be careful of that fear, that inherent fear of the unknown. It's like walking with a ticking time bomb. In fact, it's deeper. You are that ticking time bomb. I've always been trained that the only fear that we should have is fear of God. And if we fear God, we must respect life. And if we respect life, we must do all it takes to preserve and protect our own lives. And if we fear that we die, then we are ascribing more fear to death than life, because all of us in some way are related to someone that we love. And if we were to ever ponder on what was just said, we would recognize that our health is our priority, and do not live another day being fearful of the unknown. We will continue to champion for better quality of health for all Dominicans. We continue with our milestones. I take note of the recognition that we now have our mammogram, and to also say that we have 2 more on the way. And only because it was raised, but I will note that we also have a national NCD plan, of which cancer is an NCD. I understand, of course, that there can be consideration for greater focus on cancer in that plan, but we do have an NCD plan. We have an NCD coordinator also, in the person of Dr. Sentiller, the sole focus of bringing attention and education and knowledge and information to bear as it relates to NCDs. And these are the discussions that we must have. It is obvious that there is a communication gap based on early statements that we must do better to collaborate so the Cancer Society can know what the Ministry of Health is doing and the government is doing, and not wait for an AGM to discuss this, because you are a pillar, just like us, a central pillar, an important pillar, one that we rely on, a true partner. I myself, when my constituents come to me for support, there are ways that we give support, but there are things that the Cancer Society is involved in that we can't, and I refer them to Cancer Society. So I know my role. I know it well. And also I know the scope and the domain, and I'm able to ask people to go to other areas, other avenues where they themselves can find that support. Again, we'll continue to collaborate and work together. I continue to be a supporter personally and professionally of the Dominica Cancer Society. And I generally pay my fees a few years in advance. So you may want to check to see whether I am still financial, because I generally pay a few years in advance. I thank you all in a special way. Continue to support our people. I will continue as minister and personally to walk that harrowing dance with those who come to find out that they too have cancer. It is a difficult walk. It is a unique walk. It is a walk that we won't wish on our greatest enemy, although I know we don't have enemies in here. But it is one that requires absolute and profound support in all spheres, in all areas, from all of us. God bless you all in the most sincere of ways. I wish you all a successful annual general meeting, and may God continue to bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for pledging your personal as well as your ministry support to the Dominica Cancer Society. And we also want to thank you for accepting to be a champion on matters of health in Dominica today. And we know that with you as champion that things are going to move. Thanks for reminding us of a number of areas that we need to be reminded of. And one of them that stand out is taking ownership of our own health, because sometimes we always think that it's somebody else's responsibility. So thanks for that. And as I said, we look forward to the continued support of your ministry. Our featured speaker this morning, as I said, is a son of the soil from Dominica, from Portsmouth. He is a medical oncologist. Let me give them a little time to sort it out. Ready? You got it? Okay, just give us a few minutes. We're just trying to resolve some IT issues. That's the thing about the technology. You always have some challenges that you have to deal with. But we'll get there. You got it? Okay. So he's an expert, so he got it. He got it. Okay, so as I was saying, our featured speaker this morning is Dr. Gregory Vidal. He hails from Portsmouth. He is 100% Dominican, and we're happy to have him this morning. Dr. Vidal tells me he's a breast medical oncologist with medical degree and PhD in molecular biology. He spent a considerable bit of time as clinician and translational researcher in Tennessee in the United States. So Dr. Gregory Vidal is coming to us this morning with a wealth of knowledge and experience on the subject matter, and we could not find any better person to talk to us this morning on issues in cancer today. So let's welcome Dr. Vidal to the microphone.
All right. Thank you, guys. I brought my own model over here. All right. Again, thank you guys for inviting me to speak here. There are a few people that I do recognize in here. And again, I'm not going to call everybody out, but again, thank you for welcoming me. When Irma Lloyd, who is a childhood friend, reminded me, asked me to come here to speak. For those of you who know me, my sisters I see in here, and Monica over here, my girlfriend, knows that my schedule is crazy busy. At first thought it was, okay, I will think about it, but in my mind it was, there's no way this is gonna happen. But then I was working out in the morning, and I woke out to Booyah music now. All right, big up Shelly and Signal Band for reigniting my love for Booyah music. But the song came out, "I'll be there for you," and I thought it brought back the story of when I was doing my research work, when there was this young Caucasian, well, older than me, but relatively young Caucasian guy who came into the lab. And we had this discussion about why you do what you do. Why are we spending our time doing this? And his answer was, it's just a paycheck and I like science. And I thought about it, and my answer was, one, because I want to have an impact on the world. But two, I wanted to make my family and Dominicans proud. And so right then, while working out, I figured I just got to make this work. And so we moved things along, and I'm here today. So I want to talk to you a little bit differently from the conversations I've had here. I am going to tell you a little bit about myself, introducing me to you, because what I've recognized is that I do want to make Dominicans proud, but if Dominicans don't know you, they can't be proud of you. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, but I also want to show you where we are in oncology, which is at least a foresight of where we can be. It's a little bit further along than where we are, but I want to show you a little bit of what we're doing in the world of oncology, and then give you a little bit more information. So, my story. You may recognize some people in this picture here. This is from university in 1995. Quite a few Dominicans in here. Dr. Donald Peters made it possible that some of our Dominicans go up to college. A few exceptions, a few people not in here would be Johan Laville. Oh, Roosevelt Skerritt, on president is not in, prime minister, sorry, is not in here. But this is where we started. Then during college, about my second year in college, this young lady who's my mom passed suddenly. She fell sick a Thursday with headache, blood spots. Went to the hospital and never left the hospital. Turns out, and she was in New York. Turns out that she had leukemia. She was uninsured, which meant the kind of care that she could get was very limited. So she passed. Because of that, I went up to the US thinking I was going to do cardiology. It changed my entire vision of what I was going to be for myself. Research became important. So I got into a lab, decided to do an MD still. You can still be a medical doctor, but also to marry that with research and end up being a breast medical oncologist, such that recently was named not only top doctor in the United States, but also the Dr. Hero Best Physician in my area of Memphis. Had the opportunity and still do that. I'm going to do that in 2 weeks again, to go up in the Hill in Congress to advocate not only for patients, but how we manage and how oncology is viewed and practiced in the United States. Had the opportunity also to speak to physicians on a large level. Currently, I am the lead, so we have a big oncology conference called ASCO, American Society of Clinical Oncology. 50,000 physicians and oncology people come into Chicago to discuss research. I currently lead the group that select what sort of patients, what sort of research is presented. I go all over the world, from Europe, Middle East, South America, and in the United States, influencing how people practice, advocating, and teaching oncologists how to practice oncology. So that's my story. In 2014, this young man with the arrow, the arrow's not there, but this young man with the phone and myself, Curtis Langley, started a nonprofit called 2K Ohio. It's supposed to mean Precious Portsmouth, with the intention of helping and promoting sort of better youth activity and education in the Portsmouth area. For the last 15 years, we sponsored most of the graduations for the schools in Portsmouth. We've had, after Erica, in, when was that? I think 16 maybe, or 15. We changed part of our mission to do storm recovery. And between that, we've raised number and spent a lot of our equity and finance in this region. We built a storm shelter at the Home for the Aged in Portsmouth. That's some of the things that we do, and we continue to support sporting events in and around Portsmouth. We've also been, I personally, involved in some of cancer here in Dominica, not as much as I should, but we try as much as possible, providing medical assistance to patients. This one case, 16-year-old, there's a gentleman in Portsmouth, I don't know, Douglas, Washington Douglas, who calls me and he says, I have this girl who's playing basketball with me, who just had a stroke. And that's unusual. He sends me this picture. I'm not a surgeon, I don't cut, but I have a gentleman I work with, and I send him all my patients, so I'm giving him business. And I called him and I said, look at this. He says, wow, can I come down to Dominica to help her with this surgery? Because she needs surgery. I said, I don't think we can do the surgery in Dominica. And so what we did with 2K is got her up, have her had surgery, made the news in Memphis. You can see this this gentleman down there is the surgeon to do it, and some news in Dominica and the area. We also continue, you can go through it, with help with chemotherapy and target therapy for some patients here, and continue to provide some assistance, at least in consultation for Dominica. And that will remain an option. Next. Now, here's where I work. This is the West Cancer Center in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm happy to be one of the co-owners of this business. We have 12 centers. We have 12 centers, 23 medical oncologists. You can see the list over here. We see almost 18,000 new patients a year with all types of cancers. And most recently, we were the first practice in the United States, probably in the world, to use hologram to treat patients, where we sit, because we have patients in small practice in the rural community. You can sit in Memphis and hologram yourself into the room in a rural area and have an interaction with patients. And we were the first to do that. This was just published in the Washington Journal. So, big up. We do a lot of clinical research. I lead the clinical research program, which is helping to develop new drugs. The FDA is approving 50 new oncology drugs a year. And 80% of those drugs have passed through our center, 90% actually. And go back, one important point is that green graph that you see over here is just trying to give an idea of the type of patients. In the United States, patients like me and you, meaning Black patients, patients of color, really don't participate in clinical trial. There's a number of reasons, some of them cultural, some of them because of past abuse. The problem, and one of my current research and efforts, is to try to change that. Why, you may ask? It's because when you get sick, we all use those drugs. But if you don't participate in the trial, we really don't know how those drugs work in you. But we still use them. Diabetes, we don't participate in those trials. And a lot of patients of color are diabetes. Oncology, prostate cancer, you talk about breast cancer. Very small percentage of patients of color. So that's one of the things that we do. But you can see at our center, 35% of the patients that we put on study are patients of color. So it's an effort that we make. Go ahead. This is my team. This is my clinic team over here on the left. And the two pictures of there, the research team. And we do a lot of conferences in and around the Memphis area. All right. So let me talk to you about the current cancer landscape. What are we doing in the world of cancer? Most cancer treatments that are developed around molecular pathways, meaning the DNA of the cancer. Cancer develops mainly because there is a change, a mutation, something that happens in the DNA of the cell, such that that cell decides to live forever. So, in other words, a cancer cell is a normal cell that no longer listens to the body. The body has control of every cell in your body if you don't know. If that body goes awry, the body tries to heal that and fix it appropriately. If not, it tells that cell to go commit suicide. And that's how it protects us from being sick. A cancer cell is a cell that got an advantage such that it no longer listens to the body and it grows uncontrollably. So right now, the approach is to find out what that advantage is and to specifically target that advantage. And we've had significant successes in treating cancer. The reason that is possible is because the cost of sequencing the DNA has gone down precipitously. This slide, next slide, is showing the amount of potential targets that are in per cancer. So for example here, mine is breast cancer. There's a potential 33 mutations that we know that happens in a cancer cell. That is the reason why the cancer forms. On the right, these are drugs that are approved specifically for those mutations. So if you know what's causing it and you can shut that down, we found success. What some of the cool things that we're doing now is what we call circulating tumor DNA. It's cool. I'm a nerd. It's really cool for me. Is that what we also don't realize is every cell in our body secretes or releases part of its DNA into the bloodstream on an hour-by-hour basis. So if you think about it, if I can determine what is the identity of a specific cell, then I can look in the blood and find out whether or not, one, you have cancer without having to do a scan, or two, if you do have cancer, how much burden you have, whether the treatment is responding. And it's called circulating tumor DNA, and that's what this is trying to show. The tumor here secretes the DNA. We can pull that out from a blood and then look in and find those. We can find those mutations without doing a tissue biopsy, just by blood test. I wanted to show you this example of this patient, this Black young nurse who came to me with a large tumor in her breast. When we did, and this was a study that we did, when we looked at her quantity of breast DNA, took a tumor, sequenced it, figured out what the identity of a tumor DNA is, and then looked for that in her blood. And we can see through chemotherapy, it dropped precipitously, but while on chemotherapy, it started going up, suggesting that our treatment wasn't working anymore. So we had to switch it, got her back down, got her to surgery, and now she's zero. And so this is sort of the potential of what this test would do. And it's all a blood test. Immunotherapy. If you haven't heard about it, you should hear about it because it's everywhere. We currently think of it as probably putting it in the water for everybody because every tumor type currently has an approval. Immunotherapy is utilizing your immune system or manipulating your immune system to help it fight the cancer. And this is just the system of what we think the immune system does. So down in the bottom where you see chemotherapy and you see the cancer here, every time you get an infection, your body is able to fight the infection. Why? Because the body is able to recognize that infection, that bug, that virus as foreign. You may ask yourself, why does your immune system not fight its own cell? It's because it identifies your cell as same, and that's by markers that are on the cell. So the immune system, picture it floating by, looks at a cell, sees the marker, oh, you're with me, you're mine, I'm not gonna attack you. When a bacteria or virus comes through, you don't have the marker, then it develops and fights that. Okay? Imagine cancer cells, what they do is they manipulate that system. So a cancer cell also releases a lot of that marker on itself so that when the immune system comes by, it says, oh, same, you go do your thing. And we've recognized that. So what we've now done is develop antibodies that goes in and blocks those markers. And so now the immune system now recognizes those cells as foreign and is now killing cancer cells. And we're not giving a treatment that directly impacts or directly kills those cells. We're just priming the immune system to recognize it, such that we're having sort of crazy responses. So this is what we call a waterfall plot. Each one of those lines is a patient. What this means at the bottom where you see, it means that that patient who had a treatment for at least maybe, 60% of those patients, maybe 50%, a little less, 40% of those patients, when we give them that treatment, we saw no more cancer in the body. All right? This is from a chemotherapy. This is excellent response. What I want to show you is the impact that immune system, this is a different study for which they've only used immunotherapy in colon cancer patients. This one has chemotherapy, this one is just an immunotherapy. And you see each one of those lines, almost all of those patients were NED. But not every patient responds. You have to figure out which patient especially, and then give them. So this is what we're doing now. It's approved in triple negative breast, it's approved in colon, it's approved in prostate, it's approved in it's immunotherapies all over. Go ahead. Now, another thing that's very dear to me, and partly because I talked about my mom and not having insurance, is that how does patients of color, what are their outcomes? How do they do even in a country that is highly resourced? We do have patients who are not doing as well as everybody. And one of my area of research is to figure out why, and many of those patients look like me. Most times it's because of lack of resources, they're likely to be underinsured, and other biases. My work is a little bit different. My work is also looking at what we also know is that if you are a wealthy Black person in the United States and you got the same treatment, you're also likely to have inferior response. Again, I'll repeat that. If you're wealthy and got the same response, and this is what this is showing, socioeconomic status. 1 is meaning that you're very low poor. 4 mean that it's high. So you are a rich Black person in blue, all right? You are doing worse than everybody else. So that brings to mind that there is something about the treatment that is not as active in you as it is in other patients. And so that's my area of focus and research. Why is that? One of the reasons is what I brought up earlier, is we don't participate in studies, so we don't know which drug works in us and which doesn't. We also don't know how we tolerate drugs. Drugs cannot work if you don't take it. And therefore, if I'm giving you a drug and you cannot tolerate it, and I have to stop it, and I have to dose reduce it, you're more likely to get less response. And so therefore, participating in studies is absolutely important. This hurts my heart so much. And I'm going to try to explain to you what this says. We currently, standard of care, use a genomic test to determine which patients with estrogen-driven breast cancer needs chemotherapy and which doesn't. It has reduced our chemotherapy recommendation by about 35 to 40% across the board, meaning 40% of patients we would have normally just given chemotherapy, we say, really, you don't need it by doing this genomic test. These are 2 large studies, almost 20,000 patients, that help us determine that if you have a 26 on this score or above, you need chemotherapy. If you're less than 26, you don't need chemotherapy. What this is showing here on the bottom one, recurrence score 26 or higher, all right? The line would mean white patients. That's how all white patients are doing. If you're on the right of it, you're doing worse than white patients. If you're on the left of it, you're doing better or as good as white patients. What this shows is if you're 26 or higher, regardless of your race, and you get chemotherapy, you're doing well. But if this test tells you that you have a low risk and don't need chemotherapy, Black patients are doing worse than everybody else. And that's survival. Meaning that that test doesn't appropriately risk stratify patients of color. And you know why? Because when the test was validated, it wasn't validated on a Black population. It's a majority white population. So it's telling some Black women who probably need chemotherapy that you don't need chemotherapy. All right? And so those are the things that we have to think about, and that's my area of research. There happens to be another test on the market that is not as popular, that behaves much better in Black patients. Whereas when it gives you a score, you do as well as everybody. And so what I am educating people is, if you're a patient of color and you're trying to select a test to determine chemotherapy, for Black patients, you probably should be using the other test and not this one. And so those are the sort of things that I'm doing. This is what I was telling you about Black patients not participating in clinical trials. By race, in the United States, the population of African American or Hispanic, 12 and 16%. Look at the rate that's participating in clinical trial. 5% Black patients, 1% Hispanics. Clinical trial results that we're seeing is really just telling us how white patients do on studies. All right, and so we need to think about how we do things. So I keep talking about things that a developed country can do. I understand where I am. I come to Dominica often enough and involved enough to know that we don't have all of the resources. But this statement says a lack of resources does not mean you can't maximize use of what you have available to achieve acceptable outcomes. All right? Are there things that we can do here that we're not doing that can get with what we have, that can get us better outcomes? And so I have some suggestions. Going around and speaking to developed and underdeveloped countries, we've come up with at least some ideas that have floated around, maybe pertinent to Dominica, but let's talk about a few things. So making do with what we have. First of all, continuing medical education. This has to be a thing for our physicians. All right? I just told you the FDA is approving 50 new drugs. Most of them have a specific target. Oncology has moved so quickly in the last 5 years that if you trained in the 1990s and the 2000s and you don't continue doing medical education, then you're far behind. So that has to be a must. In my practice, every year we go through and I have to show what am I doing for continuing medical education? Even me, a teacher of doctors, what conference you go to, what you've done to learn, tick, have you done this one, have you done that one, have you done, and tick all of those boxes. In other words, for us to keep up. And so that's very important. 2, we have to practice evidence-based medicine. What that means? It means that when you're making a recommendation for a patient, you need to go in and look and see whether or not there's evidence why you're using it. All right? There are NCCN, ASCO, which I am actively involved in, and ESMO, that's European. ASCO is American. NCCN is a group that makes recommendations mainly for pharmaceutical companies and healthcare on how we should practice. But those are free. The guidelines are online. You register and you can go in and follow. In fact, NCCN has a low-resourced community guideline. All right, where if you're a low-resource community, if you have breast cancer, it goes in and it tells you this is what you should do, when you should do that. If you have this result, this is what you do. If you have this, so we have to follow those, and it's free. You can get it. I heard Ms. Yvonne talk about this. You have to make decisions based on research and data. Anecdotal evidence is going to get us in trouble. All right, I'll give you an example. I think it was in 2016, we came here with a researcher out of, it was 16. I was a fellow then. So it must have been 11 or 12. A researcher in the University of Miami, Dr. Elizabeth Hurley, recognized that the Bahamian patients that was coming to her clinic in Miami were younger than expected. And so she wrote a grant to say, let me go back to the Caribbean and see, one, whether or not there are mutations that are causing those patients to get cancer at an earlier age. And so we came through to the Caribbean doing and looking at almost every area. We came to Dominica, found that that was only just a Bahamian thing. Bahamian breast cancer is, they happen early and they have a higher rate of what we call BRCA mutation that causes tumor to happen earlier. But I started this to tell you about a story, I think it happened in Barbados, that when we went to Barbados, you spoke to everybody and they were like, yeah, we have a lot of young people who have early breast cancer. A lot of them. Physicians were saying that, nurses were saying that, lay people were saying that. And then when you dig in, when we actually did the research, they were all talking about one person. All right? They were all talking about the same person. And so that's the issue with anecdotal evidence. So if we had just taken that, we would have thought that is going crazy in Barbados. In fact, Barbados had a lower rate than most of the other countries. Okay, so it's important that we make decisions for even things like clinic, how the clinic function, or you get patients in and out. Do a small survey, figure out what time patients coming in, if they're coming late, what's the results, and make those decisions based on that. It's easy. Well, as a researcher, for me, it's easy, but you can do those things. And all of our decisions need to have some data behind it when we make those decisions. Go back one up. I think that's important. Encourage collaboration. Right? The Dominica Cancer Society, collaboration between the government, Dominica Cancer Society, the public. West Cancer Center. You want to talk about it, but my institution have had an offer out there. You may not know that it was before you, to provide assistance from an education perspective, from a tumor board perspective, from a pathology perspective, since 2015. All right, we came in and we toured. Those of you who were here at the time know we did that. I brought my boss down. We did a full assessment. What came out of that? We trained actually 2 nurses, oncology nurses at West Cancer Center for free. And we offered assistance. Your physicians, they have a question, present your cases at our tumor board. And we would give you at least the consensus opinion, help you come down, do something with you guys. The offer is still there. But those sort of collaborations could be very helpful. Work with empathy. I mean, I don't have to say that, do I? Put yourself in the place of the person you're treating, and imagine how it is for them when you're making decisions. Prioritize treatment-based resources. I mean, I think we in the Caribbean, and I'm not just saying Dominica, should be experts at palliative care. Why? Because it's necessary. What is palliative care? It is treatments that are based on treating symptoms that patients present. We are already working with resources that are way back. All right, we're practicing 1990 oncology in 2020s, which means that most of our patients, well, a significant portion of our patients are not getting the same results. They're dying faster, much likely to have symptoms. And we understand that because we are low resources. But we can make that death or that suffering so much easier if we are trained in managing those symptoms. And we should be experts at that because we have the patients and that's what happens. All right, so that's just a perfect example. And by the way, I'm looking at you. We have an excellent palliative care group in Memphis, and we would be happy to collaborate and help train 1 or 2 physicians who want to be experts in that to help with that. So it's just an offer. So those sort of things. And then, so to patients, your own best advocate, ask questions, demand answers, seek out opinions. But again, those opinions should be based on evidence. I mean, I go on the net also, and I see a lot of opinions on how cancer and how you can treat cancer, do this, do that are false. So it's often difficult for a layperson to determine what is real and what is not, but there are some sites that you can trust. My mom, for example, my grandmother was a bush doctor. So I understand that there are some things that happens that are held in some of the trees and what we have around that may have some activity. The problem with that sort of medicine is that it's not studied. All right? So people can easily say, you drink this and it will help you, but it's not based on evidence. It could just be a placebo effect. And so when you're making decisions, make sure that they are based on evidence. And some of our medicines, Taxol, that some of you may have had, chemotherapy, that came from the back of a yew tree. Eribulin, another chemotherapy, We got that from a sea sponge. So there are treatments that we have that have sort of natural connections, but we have to know which ones and to use them. And especially when it's life or death, if I can show you evidence that this treatment can cure you, I tell my patients that all the time. And I have patients who decide they want to try the natural path. And I said, that's fine, it's your decision ultimately. I will tell you, 99% of them come back with metastatic disease. All right, when I could have cured them. I say, when it becomes life or death, you want to use the stuff with most evidence. And after we do that, you can go ahead and do as much of your herbal medicines as you want to, but at least let's do first what we know could cure it. And so think about those things. When you're doing it, encourage relationships, trust between you and your practitioner. That's important. Collaborate with decision makers. Again, Dominica Cancer Society is doing this to help set priorities. And so these are things that we could do. I want to end by telling you a story of a patient. When I was a fellow, meaning I had done medical school, did internal medicine, so I was a practicing doctor, and in order to become an oncologist, you do extra work. My mentor, who essentially helped develop the drug Herceptin, which is curing patients all over the world. We were in clinic one day, and then somebody came in and said, I think there's a Jamaican patient here. So Jamaican patient, I guess that's my patient, because West Indian. So I opened the door, and her story goes as this. In Jamaica, she got diagnosed with breast cancer and started having treatment, didn't feel like she was being listened to, didn't feel like the recommendation was in line with what she thought should happen. And so she called a friend who had previously come to Jamaica, and her husband passed, and she supported that friend. And the friend said, well, the person wasn't a friend at the time, but this particular lady said, if you have anything, call me. So during her issues in Jamaica, she said, just pick up the phone and she said, this is what's going on with me. Turns out that lady was the chief nursing officer at Stanford, which is where I was. She didn't know that. And so that lady said, pack your bag, come up. All right? She came up, no insurance. When we saw her, started having a conversation, one of the first things when I looked through the data, I'm like, this is curable. Nobody's never told her that before. She started crying. And she talks about how much calming effect it had on her life. But I'm telling you this lady left Northern California, went back to Jamaica, and started an advocacy group. Every year from then, since 2014, me and my mentor go to Jamaica for a week to do a breast cancer walk and run, because she spent her entire time trying to advocate, building collaborations in Jamaica because of her experience and taking it forward. She sent me this poem that I want to end with. It says, what cancer cannot do. Cancer can hurt your physical body, but cancer is so limited that it cannot cripple love, it cannot shatter hope, it cannot corrode faith, it cannot destroy peace, it cannot suppress memories, it cannot silence courage, it cannot evade the soul, it cannot steal eternal life, it cannot conquer your spirit, and today it really cannot kill our joy. Thank you very much. These are pictures of family members and people who helped shape me and my career. On the left over here is my 3 kids, Layla, Jude, Kaya. This is This young lady over here, my model, Donnie Robinson, very close friend. On the top here are my friends that I've had since I was 3. They still are my friends today. We get together all the time. This is who I will speak to all the time, boys from Portsmouth. And my brother, Donnie, I took that last night, by the way. And my 2 sisters sitting in front there. And Miss Erica, that I consider an adopted mom. Thank you.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's give him another round of applause. Last night I was at an all-night vigil and I said, oh my God, I told Yvonne that I will chair this session here this morning. I don't know how I'm going to stay awake, but certainly I didn't fall asleep during his presentation. So that's the indication that he delivered. So thank you very much again, Dr. Vidal, for this, very tremendous piece of work that you presented to us here this morning. I wish we had time to really go into the presentation with him and to take questions, but unfortunately, we are running behind time, we are constrained, and the Honorable Minister has to leave, so we can do that. But Doc, I just want to tell you that, if there are 2 take homes with me, it's one, the whole question of ethnicity as a variable in treatment. I think that we need to pay more attention to, and the need for us as someone with a social science background to be more evidence-based in our care and treatment. Even if I don't remember anything else that you've said to us, but I think those 2 points resonate very strongly. And that quote that you gave us, I tried to take everything, but only a couple of them I take that cancer can destroy your memory, cannot steal your eternal life. And those are very, very pertinent points. I'll get the quote from you and I guess we'll share. So thanks again for this wonderful presentation. At this point, I think the DCS has a few presentations, tokens to present. We'll do that very quickly, and then Dawn will come to say thank you. And then I guess we'll take a short break and then come back for the working session. Thank you very much.
Davis has already said thank you. And Don, I don't want to take any winds out of your sail, because that always happens to you, right? But I too want to say thank you. I want you all to know that Dr. Vidal is here at no cost to the Dominica Cancer Society. Shoma Lloyd, who is, for health reasons, is joining us via the Zoom, is a member of the board of directors, and she's also the coordinator of the Northern Cancer Support Group based in Portsmouth. And really, it is through her relationship with Dr. Vidal that we got him to come here. It's not our first interaction with him because we've had him as a guest on we have a monthly Surviving Cancer radio program, and he's been our guest in the past. We know of him because from time to time there are patients who contact him out of Dominica, and I remember one of them was Chanel, Chanel Jordy. She was, having some difficulty, and there was the opportunity for her to be in touch with him and to get some advice so that she could be properly treated in Dominica. And for me, Davis gave his takeaways, but for me, I always look for opportunities. So it appears there are opportunities for training, there are opportunities for collaboration, there are opportunities for referrals, there is opportunities for, and that is the kind of support that Dominica needs at this time. And I'm so very pleased that the minister is busy. He has another engagement, but he stayed and he heard, and I know him. He's not just the minister, he's a member of the Dominica Cancer Society. He's passionate about the cause, just as I am, and I know that we can expect that, yes, the offers are still on the table and we will get some sort of traction. So thank you so very much. I want to say thank you to the minister first and give him just a fruit basket to allow him to leave. Although, can you stay 5 more minutes? Okay, and the reason that I'm asking the minister to stay 5 more minutes is because Mr. Jolly also wants to leave us, but he wants to make a presentation to us, and I want to give him the opportunity to do that now, and then we give out the tokens.
Good morning. A good and blessed morning to all. And the President, Mrs. Yvonne Alexander, Board of Directors, invited guests, friends and well-wishers, members of the press, and media. I feel very honored that I was asked to deliver a donation to the Cancer Society. And I'm doing it in honor of my beloved brother, Father Clement Jolly, who was inspired by your organization's excellent work that you're providing for persons to help them along in life and possibility of healing themselves up with whatever is made available through the association for them. Father Jolly was my brother. He was the second son in the family, and I happen to be the 10th child and the third. So we had a little trio going between us in the family. I kept very close company with Father because he looked at me as his junior brother, and he has to relate with me and see how he can bring me along in life. We had quite a lot of friendly times together, and I came across some resources recently, and I thought I would, in his honor, knowing the relationship he had with Mrs. Yvonne Alexander. He was very close and very close in touch with the society. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, he did die of cancer. And his last days, he spent his time up at FACS, which is the senior citizen home, where he got very good treatment. I myself, I did assist him in whatever way I could. I used to be helping him he asked me for that matter to help him to shave. He didn't like a beard as I do. And I had to assist him in showering at the Holy Redeemer home in Belfast. That is where he spent some of his last days before he was brought over to FACS. The experience I had with him was very touching, and I was there with him regularly. And when he was to leave for FACS, the home at Mount Daniel, I was informed of it, not by the parish priest, but by his, not by the parish priest, but by someone who told me he will be leaving on Friday for Mount Daniel. So I called the parish priest and said, Father, I understood my brother will be moving to FACS Mount Daniel, but could I accompany? Could I accompany, and what time will we be leaving? He told me he will be leaving at about 10 o'clock, and you're warned do not come here to interfere. So I said, Father, I will definitely be there. And actually, when I went there, his nurse was late to attend to him, to prepare him for going up to FACS. And I had to be called on, although I was denied early on to not attend to him. I was called on and I was told, he asked me if I could help him to shower as his nurse was late. I said, definitely I will. And I did wait. The ambulance was picked him up, and the ambulance was running late. They were on another effort. So when time passed on for a while, the very priest called on me. He said, could you drive your brother to London? I said, anything for my brother, anything whatsoever. And but while he could not have gone in the other vehicles, they were too tall. I had a very small, short vehicle, small vehicle. And I was able to drive him up together with the nurse. And he definitely was being affected with cancer. He had quite a lot of pains. And he spent about a year up there before he passed on. May his soul rest in peace. So when I came across these resources, I said, what best should I do with a little of it? And I thought of Cancer Society and his connection with Mrs. Yvonne Alexander. And when I went to the bank and I just did the transfer. And I later informed them. I don't have the check with me, but it is well established that it was entered into the society's account. Oh, it was a small amount, just 10,000.
So yes, our treasurer did confirm receipt of the funds, $10,000 from the estate of the Jollies, and we want to say how really very grateful we are. In relation to the relationship with Father Jolly, it's all about church. I remember a long time ago, Father Jolly and I served on a panel, and Father Jolly told me, you should leave the police force and come work for the church. I think he sowed a seed he didn't even know that he was sowing. And many, many, many years after, I did get a little more involved with church. But I really want to thank you. As I said to you, the funds will be utilized to assist individuals in need to meet the cost of cancer treatment. And we're extremely grateful to you for even remembering us. So thank you. You could have done anything with the funds, but you chose to also share some of it with the Dominica Cancer Society. We consider $10,000 a generous donation. Thank you.
You're making me feel now that I didn't give enough.
If you have any more left, we will accept.
I'll have to reconsider.
Yes, thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. And we thought he should be here today to do the handing over, although it was, in that way. Thank you so much. And this said, we need to release the Minister of Health. Mr. Minister, thank you for staying on. Davis, you should do it. Thank you so very much for staying on. We really do appreciate it. We know you're a family person, young family, and we are grateful that you gave us the time. We thank you for your continued support and collaboration with us. And yes, Bernadette is going to do the honors. So, yes, watch it. Yeah.
I want to make a comment.
Thank you, Minister.
What I want to say is I want 2 minutes of your, and I will start by my friend here. And I will use signals from the passing. And some of us are very fortunate. We pass for a long time. And some of us, we are not as fortunate. But irrespective of how we pass, we need to pass in a dignified way. And I have a concern, and I think the minister is the best person to help us address it as a society. Dying from cancer or seeing your loved ones die from cancer, being a survivor, whichever way you want to look at it, it has its own unique challenges. I always say survivorship is hard, and succumbing is even harder. But as survivors or cancer patients, we need to die in a dignified manner. We have come to several meetings. I've been in the society for 60 years. And we speak over and over about the need for cancer registries. We speak about the need for revising the cancer formula or what is currently available in terms of care at the hospital. We speak about the need for palliative care, and we speak and we speak and we speak. Sometimes I feel we have in a talk shop, and we speak and speak and speak. And what I really want to focus on today is cancer patients dying in a dignified manner. As a patient, especially a late stage patient, you are already aware that you are going to succumb. Every patient, and if you speak to patients, they are aware. And they have their fears and they have their challenges that they face. I just lost my brother and I'm a survivor. So I'm speaking from a personal experience. And at the hospital, both at the oncology unit and at the emergency unit, some form of training is required for dealing with patients in late stages. I want to applaud the Cancer Society and the efforts that they make. I want to applaud. I would want to single out Dr. Moses today because I personally miss Dr. Moses. But I believe some training is required at the hospital with dealing with patients at the late stage. I want to see cancer patients die in a dignified manner, and we deserve that. We acknowledge we are passing, and our passing is maybe shorter than many, but we want to leave this earth in a dignified manner. And I really would like you to address this. I want you to also speak to the oncologists about the approach that they deal with patients with. And while Dr. Vidal is here, I think he needs to visit the oncologist department because something needs to be done. I'm seeing too many of my friends passing of late. And one of the reasons why they may be passing, maybe, I want to choose my words wisely, they don't want to go to the oncologist clinic. I remember recently I had a lump in this area here. And for me, I thought it was a recurrence going to happen. And I was very fearful. I spoke to Yvonne, I spoke to Mrs. Royer, so they were quite aware. And I went to oncology, and the manner in which I was treated, I was very discouraged and disheartened, only to find out it was a sebaceous cyst that could have just been looked at by the oncologist to tell me, this is a sebaceous cyst, it's nothing to be worried about. And the manner in which I was treated, I don't want to go back there if I don't have to go back there. And this was not what existed at the clinic in the past. There was an open door approach that we used. So whenever something was wrong, I could have gone in and spoke to any of the oncologists. I miss Dr. Malaka. There is this Spanish doctor who was very good to us. But now, if I don't have to go to oncology, I don't want to go. And that might be one of the reasons there is this high increase, because I'm not the only one feeling so. I am emotional because I know what existed then and I know what exists now. We need to address what is going on at oncology, and we need to address the treatment. We know we are going to die. We know we are at late stage. We are aware, but we want to live this world in a dignified manner. That is my contribution this morning.
I not only sympathize with you, empathize with you. I have a personal story which is similar to that. And that's why I said earlier when I spoke that I am invited here as minister. But it's not because I am minister that I have stories. It's because I am a Dominican, I'm a citizen, and I have walked that road just like many of you. I don't like to be very personal when I speak. Protection of privacy or even my own family. But it troubles me that I too have an uncle who, on the day my last daughter was born, that's when he was found, he was diagnosed with cancer after having been on a journey for 1 year to figure out what it was. Only for it to be stage 4, prostate cancer, after having metastasis. This is not acceptable. And again, in his particular path, it was a path where he went private for a very long time to a doctor that really, what not to have gone to, or should have referred him very quickly and kept the case for a long time. We are seeing that in terms of the incidence of cancer, morbidity, we're seeing our rates are pretty much on par with the Caribbean and the rest of the world. However, our mortality, that's those who die from cancer, it's too high. Again, it is because too often when we are diagnosed, it's at stage 4, stage 5, when it is very likely too late, beyond our ability to control. Again, I took the approach early on when I spoke by talking about our individual responsibility. That was in no way an attempt to suggest that in all the pillars of health, that there ought to be less responsibility. But it's only for us to try to manage and do better at what we can control in our individual capacity. However, as a state, as a structure, as people, we must do better. And we must continue to do better. I said earlier that it's based on what happens, what occurs, that determines whether I can sleep or I cannot sleep. I take full accountability in healthcare for all the occurrences, whether I know it or whether I don't know it. It's my job to get to know it. That is why I'm here. That is why I make myself available. That's why I see my job as one that I have to infiltrate and be everywhere, while my job is never to be a micromanager. But that is how you often get to know. It's by meeting with people, listening to their stories, and understanding their circumstances. We have made a lot of strides. However, there's much to continue to do. I heard someone mention cancer registry. Just to let you know that very soon, this year, after working on this for a couple months now, we have invested $6.5 million in preparing the health management information system. And that will be rolled out this year. And that is a positive, that is an absolute gain. And we will have our registry. that, we know that I was Minister of Public Works and Digital Economy. And it was there that we decided to invest $6.5 million in HMIS, Health Management Information System. While at Public Works, we wished this was done sooner. We had a lot of challenges. And there was one point, I will tell you, I was so frustrated with the rate at which this was being implemented, that for me, at one point, I saw it as this project likely may not have been implemented. And it dawned whether we should redirect $6.5 million into an area where there was a better uptake. And I often ask myself why I am in a new ministry. But it's interesting, it's only when I got there in a new ministry that I realized the gaps, challenges, and to see that they needed focus, some level of focus, to understand why the registry is so important, to understand why data is so important, to understand why accessing data is very important, and to be that driver to ensure that we're able to implement this project in quick time so people can benefit. So doctors and nurses and health practitioners can be less consumed with issues of writing information and administration and being focused more on care. And this is what this is about. $6.5 million later, sometime this year, by the grace of God, we will have the health information management system available to the public. I will let you all know, as it relates to care and so on, a lot has been done. We continue to improve. Pharmacy bill was passed recently in early December. Very soon, we will also pass medical bill. This is one that you will see just like it's being done for the nurses, where there's a requirement for continuous education, which does not exist and obtain right now for doctors. Dr. Vidal said it clearly why this is important. This will be a pillar in this new bill. It will be something that will be mandatory. Protocols are continuing to be improved at the hospital. There is collaboration with other facilities. It is positive that right now we have a telemedicine center at the hospital. And what this means, I'm not just saying people, it's just to say we've done it, but to let you know that telemedicine imaging center, while the focus is cardiology, we're open to extend to oncology and other areas, because we can connect directly with university and research hospitals and experienced oncologists all around the world. That can be done. But again, I will tell you, I can have as much political will as I want, that I desire. But it takes people to be movers and shakers. There's facilities there, but if people don't use telemedicine and imaging center, they don't take initiative, we're going to have a problem. We've heard HIFU before, that we've had that. A lot of people even thinking HIFU, we're crazy or something. What is HIFU? We've had the HIFU in the last year, and it's certainly not a suggestion or my intention to throw anybody under the bus. That is not who I am, but to say that I'm not satisfied with the fact that it was not used last year, but yet it is fully functional. So we can create all the enabling environment that we want, that we would like. But if we don't treat care from people, approach care from people here standpoint, then we will continue to have problems. And that's why we must reward those who give good care. We must highlight them. Earlier this week on Wednesday, we were able to highlight that the function at Dominica French Hospital, 31 high performers, people who've gone over and beyond. Because we hear bad stories, the difficult circumstances, we often don't hear of the good ones, but there are great ones. I'm sure each and every one of you have encountered some caregiver in the health public health system. You call names of those before. And there, I will assure you that there are many, the majority who will. That's why those who give good care must continue to hold their peers and their colleagues accountable at a higher standard. Because it makes no sense for a star to shine alone in the darkest skies. If it does, it's really selfish because it's not going to give light to the world. All it is, all of us will be focused on this one star. But it just takes that slightest glimmer from every star, and that is when we will all see light. And that must be the approach of everybody giving care in Dominica. We'll continue to do more and commit absolutely to championing this. Being a minister for me is not by accident. This is the biggest sacrifice of my life. This is the biggest sacrifice of my life. And I'm saying this not for pity, not for sympathy. It is the truth. And I am not about to waste what I see as the prime years of my life. I take this seriously, but I cannot do it alone. And that's why I took the approach, asking for all of us to come together and to do better. Hold each of us accountable in our responsibilities and our duties to everybody. I thank you for sharing your story with me. We will certainly learn from that. I hope we have many thousands of listeners today. And the important thing is that we do better. There is also, I come from private sector. And we must never expect government to do everything also. There lies an opportunity for private sector, and even in this, for those who are listening. Because I lived in the US for some time, studied there, and palliative care, end of life care, it's not normally a government function. It's not normally that way. Primary health care, as we know it in Dominica and some parts of the Caribbean, is not normally done in that way. These are possible opportunities, just like we have the homes like FACS and Agape and various homes that are private, that are doing well. We have an opportunity also for end-of-life care. Because we tend to do it at the hospital, and that's when you will hear in death announcements that this person died at Dominica Child French Hospital, and the talk is people just dying at Dominica Child French Hospital. Yes, they will, because in many cases, we can do nothing more for these particular patients. And what they really need now is love and comfort and compassion. That's what they need. And probably it's time that we think, and maybe it could be approached from a public-private partnership perspective, to do it together, government and private sector, to offer that service to our people who need it. So we can die and transition to other life with the highest level of dignity that we deserve. And no one has to say, well, visiting powers are between this and that and that. And you now have to try to be on the phone, a video call with your loved one. Maybe we need different. It's an opportunity, and I hope and I pray that someone can embrace that. Maybe it's time for us to have that conversation, that stakeholder consultation. I thank you sincerely once more.